Hey, welcome back to yet another episode of One Man in a Squeaky Chair talking about photography. I am Nico. Today's video is about tripods and specifically tripod heads. I don't have that much to say about tripod legs. I own three different ones, and the one I like the best is the one that cost me the most money. It's this carbon fiber little number here. But heads come in different shapes and forms, and there's very good reason to love or loathe each different design. So I thought I would walk you through the four different heads that I use. Let's do it. So the first head we are encountering in our journey through the land of tripods is the ball head. So called because the top platform is supported by a sphere, a ball, and this allows to move it in any direction. Let's describe it from top to bottom. So here, directly in contact with the camera, is a quick release platform, a quick release plate. So this screws into your camera and makes it easy to mount and dismount the camera. This specific one is an Arca Swiss standard. It's a very common standard for quick releases. For obvious reasons of practicality, all my tripod heads have a quick release, but they're not all Arca Swiss. Then further down you have the ball, which is subject to two screws. This screw is to free the ball, so you can move it, position your camera and then lock it. And that second screw is the friction. When it's open, the ball moves very freely, and it's a pain in the ass to find your position. If you tighten that screw a bit more, the ball moves a bit less easily and you can make supposedly precision adjustments. And finally, here on most of those you'll find a last screw that just controls the horizontal pan over the tripod legs. I'm not gonna spend much time here. I hate ball heads. To me they only make sense because they are the smallest type of heads. To achieve the same payload rating with a 3-axis head, we would have a much bigger head, as you will see very soon. So the only reason I own a couple of these is to have on very small tripods when I'm traveling. If I'm shooting at home or in a studio or close enough to home, I would never bother with ball head because I find them very hard to adjust and I hate them. But of course that's just me. Your experience and your taste may be different. The next model of a tripod head is a 3-axis tripod head or 3-way tripod head or a 3-way pan head. And it's a very simple concept. You have one screw here for the horizontal pan, one screw here to adjust tilt, and one here to adjust, pitch. On this particular model, you notice I turn the handles to loosen the screws, so I can find my subject, go to vertical framing, then adjust tilt forward or backwards. This once again has a quick release, but it's not an Arca Swiss standard. It's one of many different Manfrotto proprietary standards. And if you're sitting here watching this video and thinking, already two different heads and two different standards, wait, it gets worse. But I have a lot of affection for this head and this type of heads. It's what they recommend to photo students or people who use DSLRs. Typically the payload is between 5 and 10 kilos depending on the brands. And these are robust, nice heads that allow you to make rather fine adjustments, and there's not much that can go wrong or get gripped in those. I think they are a really good deal for the price, and they are really everywhere on the used market. The problem obviously is that they're much bigger compared to the ball option that would carry the same load. Here is our third head to look at today, and it's called a geared head. Why geared? Because the screws are geared and allow you to make extremely fine adjustments. You just turn the screws to the position you want, and once you let go, the head won't move. At the base of the screws you find those wheels that disengage the mechanism and allow you to make quick adjustments. And then when you let go, you are in fine adjustment mode again. What do we see at the top of this head? Is yet a third and different standard. This is a Manfrotto head, it's the 410 geared head, and it uses yet a different proprietary Manfrotto quick release plate. So for those of you counting at home, it's my third different quick release model. I'm very fond of this head. I have 3 of those quick releases. One of them is permanently on my 4x5 camera, and the other 2 I usually use for my Hasselblad and my Nikon digital on shoots. This would be my do-everything head if it was capable of a bit heavier payload. I think this caps at 10 or 12 kilos, so it's unfortunately not enough for my 8x10 camera, and that's why I have the fourth head we're about to see. Okay, this fourth and last head is also a type of geared head. You have here those screws that allow me to make very fine adjustments on only 2 axes. And of course the horizontal pan being a third. This particular head is made by Leofoto in China. It's heavily inspired by Arca Swiss, the famous cube head. And this is actually 2 heads because here I have an horizontal panning head. This is very inexpensive, sometimes called a panorama head or a pan head, and it's just a 1-axis head. And then I put my 3 axes on top of this. Why do I want to use that bottom panning head rather than the panning option here? Well, simply because those 2 axes, I want to keep them always aligned with the camera axis. So if my camera sits like this, perpendicular to this axis, or parallel to this axis and perpendicular to that one, then I want to lock it here. So those movements are always my side and front tilt. If I was using this pan, like this, and lock here, suddenly these movements are not aligned anymore with my camera position. So I bought this head because it was affordable, it's extremely small, and it is rated for a payload of 20 kilos. I'm not sure if I believe that, you know how Chinese manufacturers can be about their claims sometimes, but it has been supporting my 12-ish kilo Diodov with a heavy lens and a holder, and hasn't moved. So it is actually rock solid, and I'm quite happy with it. It is also very small. Like, this is smaller than the lens and easy to carry around if I feel like I need to have 2 heads with me, which I never do. The price to pay for that compact form factor is that the movements don't go near as far as the Manfrotto geared head we've seen before. I think it's 10 or 15 degrees in each direction. So if you can see here, yeah, this is as far as it will go sideways, and same thing on the other side. So it's a very limited movement, but it's very practical for me for large format work where you're never pointing the camera in a very strange direction. You're usually shooting straight ahead, mostly portraits for me. So this is fine to make like fine adjustments to my framing, um, rather than having to move the tripod up and down to fine tune a framing that's already pretty good when I set up the camera. So first thing I could say is that I like tripods. For me, pretty much the default way to photograph is to use a tripod. I do walk around with my Leica a lot, but for every serious photography that I do with a Hasselblad or with large formats, and for most of my jobs, I like to use a tripod because I think my style is very straight on, and I really hate converging lines and tilted cameras. So a tripod really helps me make sure that my camera is always level when I'm shooting, which saves me time cropping back to a level horizon in post. Also, I like to move around on set and touch things and move things in my frame. And what better place to leave the camera when you do that than on a tripod? Because the tripod will remember your frame better than you would if you put the camera down on an Apple box or something. Another reason, obviously, is sharpness. There is an old maxim that your sharpest lens is a tripod, and that's absolutely true. If you are into big prints and very sharp pictures, you will be better off shooting a very average lens, like a kit lens, on a super nice solid tripod compared to shooting a fantastic prime handheld. Try it for yourself if you don't believe me. And for me personally, if I'm on a shoot with people, I like to think that I'm working a little bit like a painter. Like my frames are usually very calculated. I'm not that spontaneous when I'm shooting. So being able to leave the camera back and walk up to the model, talk to them, or if I say we're taking a break, I'm not still holding my camera. It really is a break. They saw me walk away from the camera the same way that a painter would walk away from an easel, and then they know they can relax. They know we're not shooting anymore. So I don't know, maybe it's all in my head, but I feel like people are less guarded, and we managed to actually establish a better rapport. Because if I leave the camera back and walk to you into your space and start talking to you, you don't have to be guarded. You know the conversation is real, and you can focus on what I'm saying and the rapport I'm building rather than still looking at that camera that's staring at you and might fire at any moment. So another thing that I love to do, whether I'm shooting real estate or environmental portrait where there's a lot of stuff in the frame, is leave my camera locked with my desired frame on the tripod, and then look up from the camera and actually scan my frame with my own eyes. And it is so much easier for me to notice disturbing elements. Oh, there's this bit of rubbish on the floor in the background, or oh, that plant coming into my foreground is going to be getting too much light from my light. Like, I see that stuff much easier with my own eyes than through a viewfinder. So having the option to let go of the camera while knowing that my frame will stay exactly where I want it, but I can take like a last second checkup. And often when I'm shooting portraits, because I'm using a cable release, I'm not looking through the viewfinder at all. I'm looking straight into the eyes or straight at the person I'm photographing. And I don't need to look at my camera because I'm shooting in manual and I know my frame is not going to move. So I'm just shooting, rewinding, and I never break eye contact. I don't hold the camera as a barrier between me and the subject. And I like to think that this also participates into my style, or at least the atmosphere on my shoots. That being said, each type of head has its advantages and inconvenience, and like I said, I hate the ball head, but I can see how for someone who still shoots handheld a lot and wants to keep that feeling of fixing your frame very quickly, having a rather loose ball head just supporting your camera can be a very nice way of shooting. It's just not for me. And I realized that I'm also in the minority in preferring geared heads to tighten and loosen heads. But again, that's me. I like to be very precise. I often shoot in smaller environments where there's a lot of stuff that I want to keep out of my frame. If I'm shooting in someone's apartment, apart, for example. So to me, having those really precise and tiny adjustments allow me to frame exactly where I need to be framing, and for me, it's what works best. But then again, there's the question of cost and weight, and I do end up carrying my ball head when I travel, like I mentioned in my travel gear video a couple of years ago. So the ball head still does see some use. Alright, I feel like I've rambled enough. I don't probably will find more things to say about tripods. I love them, and I hope this was useful in helping you choose your next head. Have a nice day. Thank you very much for tuning. We'll talk again soon about another topic.